Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Well, as you can see here, it's another beautiful day. Not really. It's a blustery, windy, rainy Saturday, and I was just working on something up in the shop, and in the middle of it, it occurred to me I should probably be filming it. So let's go in the shop. I'll show you what I'm working on. So I'm going to warn you right up front, it is full and it is messy in here because I have just been ramming wood through the molder. We're working on a big white oak flooring order and trim to go along with it, and I've just been so busy. Got 10,000 things going on. We've been busy with farm work, so if the sun's out, I'm on the farm. If it's raining, I'm in here, but I just never stop. But I'll show you some of this flooring I'm working on. Beautiful stuff. So this is select white oak, and it's random width, so it's a mix of 3, 4, 5, and 6 inch. And it's just really sharp stuff. This is just a little bit of it. I got another pallet down in the other building. And what I'm doing, I'm actually, as I'm cutting and grading this stuff, there's a bunch of low grade stuff that won't make select. That's going on this pallet down here. So that is more of like a character grade with some knots and stuff. That's unfortunately not sold, but when I'm done with this batch, I'm gonna list it for sale and hopefully sell it. Should be some pretty nice stuff. But I've been working on that here all morning. Been cutting the flooring. So this is what it looks like when it comes off the molder. You can see the raw ends on it, and then it's got a bunch of knots scattered throughout. So we cut and section out those knots and package it up. Obviously, you don't use, FAS grade lumber to make flooring. You use common grade lumber. You cut out the knots. You make select, because flooring can be random lengths. So you just cut around the knots. Downside to that, makes a lot of cutoffs. All these little squaring ends off and cutting out stuff like that. So that makes good firewood. Makes good smoker wood. I've always got lots of it if anybody's interested in that kind of stuff. But what I was working on here, when it just dawned on me, dummy, you should get the camera and film this. This same order has stair treads. Now, strangely enough, the flooring is white oak, the stair treads are red oak. That's what the customer wanted. He's matching different things in different parts of the house. That's neither here nor there. That's what he wants. That's what he gets. So I'm laying out these stair treads, and I thought, well, I don't know if I've ever shown this before. Maybe I have, but it'd probably be worthwhile showing what I got going on here. So stair treads are obviously a little bit thicker. That flooring behind me is 3/4 inch. That's standard. Stair treads are going to be anywhere from 7/8 to 1 inch is what you find for standard stair treads. So you got to start with a little bit thicker material. So I'm starting with 5/4 oak, which is actually 1.25 inch rough sawn. And where I'm at so far, since I didn't show you the beginning of the steps, I started with rough lumber and I cut it to length. Now these are going to be 3-foot treads finished. So I cut them about 40-42 inches to give myself some trim. It just makes my life easier in the whole process, as you'll see. So I squared them up, cut them to length, jointed one side, an edge, ran them through the rip saw to get them to my rough size, and then I just lightly planed the top so I can see the grain. So that brings me to where I'm at here. So these are going to be 11-inch finished. And I'm not going to do that in one single piece. Number one, I don't have enough wide boards that wide. Number two, you get more stability if you put two smaller pieces together. If you take that one wide board, there's a tendency it might want to cup. So if you add two small pieces together, it tends to be more stable. So just so happens with the lumber I have, this set right here, and I got to make 16 of these, so this is just a start because I can't glue up 16 all in one shot. But I can do 6 at a shot here, which is what I'm about to do. So just so happens this batch with what I pulled out, these are mostly going to be 8 and a 4-inch piece will make 12, and that gives me room I can trim to 11. So you always got to make it a little bit bigger than, you know, your finished size. Obviously, that should go without saying. So what I do here, so I lay this one out. I'm going to take this piece and I just kind of try to orient them. I'm looking at the grain, that I want the grain to kind of flow together, and that actually looks pretty good right off the bat. I'm going to flip that over. I like it the other way. This takes a little bit of vision to see how this is going to go. Yeah, actually I like the way that looks right there. So that's how that's going to go, and it's not really going to pick it up on camera that well, and plus you probably can't see the grain through the rough saw in there. So now what I do, let's see if I can hold the camera and do this. Make an X. I mean, this is just the way I do it. And I am on D now because A, B, and C are aside of me. So now the next step, what I'll do, I'll take this back on the jointer. I'll stand it up and I'll joint both those edges, obviously facing down the jointer, and then they'll make a glue joint. Now, let me teach you guys a little secret. This tip is probably going to be worth watching this video if you get nothing else from it. When you joint boards and you lay them out like this, there's a secret to get a perfect joint on the jointer. Your jointer fence, let's go over to the jointer. I don't need to illustrate this here when the jointer's 10 feet away from me. Alright, so let's try this again. So this jointer fence should be a perfect 90 degrees. Should be. Nothing in life is perfect. So, what if it's 89.5 degrees? What if it's 91 degrees? You know, it may be off just a slight bit, and what that means is you could end up with something like that, a gap. No good. So this is what you do. Run one side with the bottom facing the fence. Run your next piece with your top facing the fence. What you'll do is you'll make a complementary angle. One will offset one way, one will offset the other way, and it'll be perfect. The easiest way to kind of explain that, maybe, think of it to the extreme. Think if that fence was on a 45. So if you cut a 45 one way, you cut a 45 the other way, they're going to match up to make a perfect 90, perfect flat surface. So you're eliminating that error. I might be making this more complicated than it needs to be, but just keep that in mind. Whenever you're joining boards for a panel, if you run the bottom one side, the top on the other piece, you're going to get a perfect joint every time. Assuming your jointer is true and, you know, you can handle the board, that you're not shaking it, all that kind of variable. But all other things being equal, if your fence isn't perfect, that will make a perfect joint. So enough of me yapping. Let's fire it up and, well, let's make some stair treads. So we're next door in the heated shop now. I got all these jointed. Once again, I apologize for my mess. I usually don't let things get so out of hand, but it's been going and going here, and it's one of those things, you got to kind of try to do multiple things at a time when glue ups are involved, because obviously it takes glue time to dry. So I can do a couple of these, go make flooring for a few hours, come back, do another set, and kind of multiply your time rather than just sitting around waiting for the glue to dry. The downside to that is you end up with stuff scattered everywhere and you're working over stuff and around stuff, and it's less than ideal, but make it work. So this is why I mark these with a letter, or sometimes I use a number and an X, because it's amazing how easy it is to get these things all mixed up and you don't know which piece goes with which and which way they're oriented. So obviously the letter lets me know what two are paired. The X tells me the orientation I had them. You know, it's not rocket science. So I'm going to lay 3 out here, and then I'm going to have to use my smaller racks. Now this isn't a hard job, but it does take a lot of clamps. I'm probably going to use that entire clamp rack there. At least 3 on each one. Now the one nice thing, I mean, these joints did get really tight. This is another thing you can't really see on camera, but you can kind of tell they're nice and tight. And I've found over the years, I mean, I've done thousands of glued panels, and prepping your wood is the whole key to success. Yes, I've got big heavy clamps here. Yes, they can pull together wood that isn't perfect, but I've found there's no sense fighting yourself. Make sure your machines are tuned up right, make sure you're joining stuff properly. You're gonna have much better success, and you're not gonna fight yourself, and you're not gonna have to use wood filler, and it's just easier to do it the right way up front. So I always am very particular how I joint my edges, and honestly, if it's done right, it takes very, very little clamping force. They just kind of go together naturally. And like always, I'm using pipe on 3. I keep it over here by the heating pipe so it stays nice and warm. I swear by this stuff. I use it for all my glue ups. Works excellent. Never had an issue with it. Never had a failure. I've said it in past videos. They claim that this stuff is actually stronger than the wood itself, and you know, I've seen it. I've broken pieces here, and the wood fails before the glue joint does. So really nice stuff. So I'm gonna get these glued up, and over the next day I'm gonna cycle through 16 of these. I believe I'm putting a bull nose on the front of these. I have to check the paperwork. I've got a bunch of different orders going, and I can't keep everything straight in my head, but that's why email and paperwork is king around here. I'd like to have everything on paper. So yeah, I'll bring you back to do the bull nose, and I'll show you how that flooring turns out at the end, and some other various trim pieces we got going for this job. And it's a nice one. I'm happy to have it, and I didn't bring it from the start, but I figured, well, I might as well include you along on the ride here, and show you a nice oak order. So I'll catch you guys in a day or so. So you guys just saw me plane, bull nose, and trim up the size, those stair treads. I jumped forward a little bit. I got everything done, ready to go, ready to ship. So let me show you what all I got here. Beautiful 1,300 square feet of white oak flooring between this pack and this pack here. It's random width, so we got 3-inch on the top, but then there's wider stuff mixed throughout here. A nice mix of everything. Those red oak stair treads that I just showed you, they're all stacked in there. I've got the risers to go along with them. Miscellaneous trim pieces to the customer's order. Should be a very nice order. I'm happy with it. I hope the customer's really happy with it. It's nice to work on oak. Man, it feels like I've been doing pine and hemlock here all winter, and it's nice to get back to a hardwood order. That being said, tomorrow I'm starting another pine order, but it's just the way it goes. I don't mind. It's all fun. So maybe I'll bring you along for that one, but figured I'd show you some oak since it's been a little while. So thanks for watching. Catch you next time.